All right guys, how you doing? It's Rabea. I hope you're all well. So if any of you watched my live stream the other day, I mentioned I wanted to make this video. It's more of a talking point, a discussion. So if you've got any points you want to throw in to the hat, then put them in the comment section below. But I wanted to touch on being in a band in 2025, or in other words, right now in the modern sort of climate of music and being in bands and stuff like that. Because as some of you probably know by now, I have a band called Vower, and we've been going about a year. And it's been a really interesting road so far. We've had some really good reception, but also the whole thing is independent, self-funded, self-managed, and it's a bit of an interesting combination of things. And I figured that some of the experiences we've had and some of the things we've been dealing with could be really useful to young bands and bands that are sort of a little bit more established and sort of gaining momentum. I wanted to share that with you in this video. So I think that quite a lot of these points apply across the board to young bands starting out, and also bands that have been gigging around, got a bit of a fan base, got some following, got some traction, because like in our situation, because of being in previously established bands, like Joe and Liam were in Black Peaks, Josh was in Palm Reader, I was in Tosca, and we'd all had varying degrees of success over the years. There was obviously a bit of a leg up when it came to putting this band together because of the history that we'd had and the experiences we'd had with those previous bands. However, it doesn't necessarily allow you like a backdoor entry to just getting loads of sick gigs and sick tours and getting a record deal and getting management and all that kind of stuff. It's not a case of just because we'd done it before, it's easy to do it again. We sort of are starting from the ground up, and a lot of the experiences that we've had so far in Vower I think are applicable to young bands and sort of young touring bands as well. First thing I'll say is, obviously, I've seen a couple of comments where people are sort of highlighting the idea that maybe because I have like a following online, that it makes it really easy to get great support slots or great festival slots or just great gigs and tours and stuff like that. And let me be clear, it definitely doesn't do that. I think maybe where it can help is just knowing that there is a bit of extra visibility from the off, because I can obviously talk to all you guys about projects that I'm involved in. But in terms of the industry, in terms of festival bookers and agents and all that stuff, no one's ever heard the band, no one's ever heard it live. It could be terrible. So why would they take a punt and just throw you on great festivals? We obviously had to do a bit of proving ground with gigs and things like that we've done so far. And obviously you can call in favors from previous experience, like Joe, for example, was able to speak to the bookers at, say, Arctangent and say, hey, I'm in a new band, here's some demos. You obviously booked, Black Peaks before and Tosca and Palm Reader in the past, so maybe you'll be interested. And obviously they gave it a listen because of previous history, to say, yeah, we'll give you an opportunity, put you on mid-afternoon, that kind of thing. That's about as far as it extends. You don't necessarily get like great big tour supports or like download festival or anything like that just because of previous history with the bands. So I just wanted to clear that up. It's not like just having a following allows you to get skyrocketed into being able to do loads of cool stuff with your band. Definitely helps in some ways, but it's not like just, hey, have free reign at the music industry. So now I've got that out of the way, let's start talking about things that I think are definitely applicable to all bands in this day and age. The first thing would be, a band is a band of people. It's a team. It's not, people maybe don't necessarily think about the meaning of being in a band or a band, but what it means is it's a group, it's a team of people that come together to create music and, like go and play it and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's also worth pointing out that this video in particular is aimed at people that are trying to do bands as like a career or as something that they want to take seriously and drive forward. Because obviously you can be in a band, just write songs and play local gigs and have fun and just do it for the love of it, which 100% go for it. If you're wanting to do this as more of a career prospect and sort of gain traction and grow and grow and grow, then I think that's where some of this advice is more applicable. So being in a band, you've got, say, 3-piece, 4-piece, 5-piece, however many piece are in the band, it's a team. And I think it's really important to identify the different strengths of the members in the band. So if I look at my band, Vower, I could say I can handle the recording and the mixing, Rory can handle the video editing, video production, design and stuff. Josh is really good with merch designs and like imagery for t-shirts and stuff like that. Liam's really cool with social media, like understands how to create posts and kind of understands engagement with people. And then Joe, of course, is really good with logistics, more of the business side of things when it comes to touring and speaking with agents and advancing tours and dealing with more of the kind of managerial side of things. But there's crossover across the board. We all kind of have opinions every which way about all this stuff, and we work together democratically to kind of come up with the solution to all of these different things that pop up. So it's worth finding out who in your band has the strengths in all these different sort of departments. Someone in your band might be the artistic one that likes to draw or likes to design stuff. Like, I was watching a video recently about Polyphia and talking about their like history and stuff, and it seemed that Tim Henson, for example, was really good with design, graphic design, and he'd done, I don't know if he went to college or had a job in graphic design, but it really helped him push things forward in terms of imagery for the band and merch designs and stuff. And that's a prime example of what I'm talking about. There'll be people in your group that have strengths in different areas. Someone might be really tech savvy, so let them handle all the kind of the rig setups and making sure everything's dialed in properly. Someone may love recording or like have a keen interest in recording, so allow them to sort of overlook how you go about recording your music, or be the person that when you're in the studio with somebody, let's say you're recording your EP, they can go in and be the kind of main point when it comes to talking to the engineer or the producer about getting your sound dialed in, rather than everybody jumping in and throwing their opinions. It's good to have like a main point of contact in all these different areas. Someone may be really good with, you know, understanding logistics and the business side of it, like who's going to pick up the paycheck when you play a local gig, who's going to advance a tour, who's going to book all the vans, who's going to order all the merch, who's going to, you know, there's somebody that's really good at handling the books, should we say. And then, of course, people with social media. We're all on our phones, but there are people that maybe understand, take more information in how a post is constructed and how it's presented outwardly. So it's really important to find out who in your band has those strengths, identify that, and sort of divvy out these roles so that you can kind of hit all of these different areas as a band, as a team. It obviously goes without saying, but being in a band involves the music. It involves creating the music, creating the songs, creating the vision for the band. In some rare cases, everybody will have equal parts, you know, input into making sure that that vision is realized. However, for the most part, or at least in my experience, there tends to be sort of a driving force creatively in that way. Not that any of the other members aren't creative, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are certain members of the band that may have a stronger or more keen idea of how they want to envision the songs and the sound of the band and put it all together, because it's got to be cohesive, you know. When you see bands that you enjoy watching that are doing quite well, there is a vibe, there's a cohesion amongst the whole delivery of the product of the band that you subscribe to, you get into, you become a fan of, you know. And I think that there are going to be people within the group that have a stronger idea of how to implement that and how to execute that. And, you know, in our situation, at least for the most part of the history of Vower, we've been writing all this material. Joe and I have been getting in the studio, demoing out these songs, and then they become fleshed out with every other member. Of course, you need vocals and melodies, you need lyrics, but I'm talking like musically as well. It's much easier for us to press forward with making these arrangements if me and Joe may have an idea or a vision in our head that we can just get into the studio, you know, even with just a laptop, Logic or whatever DAW you use, and a pair of studio monitors, and just start hashing out these ideas, program some basic drums in and all that kind of stuff, and just get a general vibe and vision for a particular song, and then bring that to the band and then sort of flesh that out. And it may change a lot, but the idea being that you start with that seed and you develop it, and then you bring it to the band and turn it into what it's going to be. So it's also worth figuring that out within your band. And bands generally tend to have egos, you know, like musicians or like artistic people or whatever it is, you know, there's ego flying around all over the place in all sorts of different workplaces and environments. And it's really important that you guys can talk openly about who's going to be, you know, pushing this forward, who's going to be the driving force creatively. That's not to say that, you know, all credit due to the one person that's written the demo. That's not it at all. It's more just allowing that person to sort of have a vision, push it out into demo phase, and then you guys can creatively, collaboratively turn it into the song. It's also really, really important that from the off, from day one that you establish that a band is, you know, how it's sort of, how do I describe it, divvied out, like how it's spread across the whole thing. Like, for example, Vower is a 5-piece. Any money that we ever make that outside of putting it back into the band is split 5 ways. All the royalties, like all the rights to the music, it's 5 ways. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we've done it. As complete independent artists with no management or label that take a cut, out of 100%, we each have 20% of whatever the band makes, which is nothing right now. But the point is, it's really good to establish that from day one, because what happens is if your band starts to take off and you start to make a bunch of money, and then some people feel like, well, hang on a minute, I do all the work here, then I should get more. Like, it becomes messy, and money's a crap thing to argue over. So from the first day, you need to establish how that works, what the infrastructure is there. And it's not the most fun, comfortable talking point, but at the same time, it's absolutely necessary, because a band is a business, and a band is something that you're going to be building and taking into larger and larger scales. So it's really important that you figure that out and everyone's happy with the arrangement. And you know, you can always review it in the future, but it's really important to do that from day one. Most people watching this video, hopefully, are in bands and you're trying to push this forward and you're passionate about it, but you're independent. So you don't have a label, you don't have management or an agent or anything like that. Although saying that, having an agent is great, because although they take a percentage of the fees for the show, that's it. You know, there's no money taken from the business pot, if that makes sense. Whereas if you had a label or management, that would be the case. They would take money straight out of the band's overall business. So an agent is cool. Obviously, you know, they deserve their cut for booking you some shows, but at the same time, it doesn't affect the overall profit of the business, so to speak. So being in a band in 2025, I think the first thing that's worth saying is that you have full creative control. You have full creative control over everything. So the marketing, the music, the branding, the imagery, you know, everything about the overall vibe and brand of the band is completely in your control. Once you get management and even labels to that extent, they can have an important say in what you do, and they can push their opinion or agenda in terms of those elements. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you obviously hear about stories where that is a bad thing, but sometimes these managers and these labels and stuff have obviously great experience and know what works and what sells. So it's important to take their information and advice on board. I think that's a cool point about being independent right now, is that you have complete control over everything that you do. And obviously that means so much more when you actually start gaining traction and start gaining fans, because it means that everything that you've put out there that's come 100% from you guys is then being appreciated. And as that grows, that does feel really good. It's something that we've experienced so far in what we've been doing with Vower. But in the same vein, of course, obviously, if you don't have a label and you don't have any kind of external funding, it does mean that you are funding things yourself. So, you know, being in a band, most of the members, if not all the members, have jobs. So you are either self-employed or you work a job 9 to 5. And then with what money that you have spare, that you invest that into the band to be able to go on tour, order merch, studio time, all that kind of stuff. And that's obviously, it becomes tricky, but there are many ways that you can save money. And going back to my previous point about learning the strengths of each member of the band, you can save a ton of money. For example, we're recording this album in my studio. Now, obviously, it's a bit of a luxury to have my own studio, but I'm talking if you have Electric Kit or like GGD or like some kind of drum libraries and plugins, you can create a record with very little money if you know how to use that and mix that and create a record. So yeah, obviously funding coming externally from, say, a label that give you an advance, yeah, you'll go and order you'll go and buy studio time or whatever, and a producer and an engineer, and you create this big budget record. But you can save that money by finding somebody in the group that's really good with that kind of stuff, or wants to learn more about that and like start building from the ground up in that area. So for us, like I said, we've saved a ton of money in studio time, because I've been able to record the band here and mix it myself. And obviously I'm not charging the band, so that'd be ridiculous. But I'm, you know, like investing that amount of time and experience that I've learned to create the audible product of Vower going forward, or at least for this record. So that's cool. And but it also means things like, you know, merch. Now, most bands, I would imagine, probably have to go and seek out a designer to design some merch, which obviously costs money. But if someone in the band is good with an iPad and Procreate or whatever, you can design your own merch. just try and find ways to save a bunch of money by looking at the strengths within your band or your close friend circle. Like your brother or sister might be creative and offer to do some designs for you, or you might have a close friend that offers to do it for you. And I'm not saying take advantage of people's kindness, but at the same time, rather than just go straight out there and throw money at a problem, look at about how you can save that internally first. Because obviously, you know, unless you've got a mate that's got a van that's happy to drive you around on tour, you got to pay for van hire, you got to pay for the actual merch production, you got to pay for fuel, accommodation, food. There's so many things that you have to pay for to be able to do this, that if you can save all the money on the actual product and the, you know, like I said, the music, the actual design of the merch, all that kind of stuff, then, you know, you should. Like, I think that's a great way of doing it, especially in today's climate. I think being an independent band is about finding the strengths within what you've got available to you and utilizing those strengths. But it goes without saying that it is going to be difficult to balance day jobs and financially balance doing something which is essentially a passion project, because ultimately, being in a band, it's your choice to create music and hopefully other people like it and it grows and builds. But ultimately, you know, it's one of those things. You're creating this thing and you're hoping people are going to like it, but no one in day one, no one knows about you or cares that you're doing a band or creating music until they hear it and decide if they like it or not. So to put time, money and effort into it, as well as balancing day jobs and full-time jobs, it's really important to make sure everyone's on the same page and that you can actually apply the right amount of time collectively to make it work and to make it run efficiently, because it is a business. It's essentially a second job, if you know what I mean. So everyone has to understand where to pull their weight and stuff like that, going back to strengths internally within the band to be able to help. But we're in different positions in terms of working situations. I'm fortunate in that what I've built over the last 10 years with my YouTube channel and following and gear demos and whatever else is allowing me to do this as my career. Joe, Liam, Josh all have jobs, and Rory does a lot of video work with Ben, and they do a lot of stuff with Neural and that kind of thing, so that he's a self-employed video editor and filmer as well. So as I say, there are varying degrees of working life, but obviously we all earn money doing what we do, and then we all put money into the band to fund it and move it forward. And let me, you know, like, without giving you exact figures, we're definitely in the red to ourselves. It's taken a lot of money to get this band off the ground into the situation that we're in now, and it's not even like that far. We're only just getting started. You know, we're thousands of pounds in debt to ourselves that we've collectively invested into it because we believe in it and we want to push it as hard as we can. And having full-time adult money to an extent, as long as your overheads aren't massive in your own personal lives, means you can throw X hundred quid here or there every month to try and push things forward. But it does take that commitment and that financial commitment to be able to build it and push it forward. So it's, you know, it's an expensive thing being in a band, but that is not a bad thing, because the rewards are, if you're doing it right and you've thought about all of these areas, all of the different areas that create the brand, the band, the business, and you execute it properly and you go out there and people like it, then it's worth the investment. Like, we see people singing along to our songs, and for me, every penny that I've invested into this band has been worth it, and I'm sure it's the same for the other guys. Another point, obviously, talking about touring, if you're in a position where you're going out on tour now and you're able to do that and book a bunch of shows, it's fully your responsibility if you're an independent artist. You know, booking the tour, unless you've got an agent, it's like getting in touch with the venues, booking the tour, making sure that the routing's done properly, so someone has to do that, logistics, you have to hire a van, you know, work out where you're going to stay, if you're going to contact friends who live in different cities that you can sleep at theirs, or if you're going to have to book hotels. Someone's got to take control of all of that stuff. I mean, I know Dave was a really big fan of doing that kind of stuff back in the day when Tosca was starting out, and he enjoyed working out routings and things like that. In this band, in Vower, Joe is definitely way more that way out in terms of working out routing, booking things like the van, making sure that our agent Sean has worked out the routing properly and he's in touch and that side of things, so that we can focus on other areas. For example, if we're going on tour, we need merch, we need designs, Josh will take care of it. So I keep harking back to this, look internally first. Someone's got to step up to all these different areas of being in a band, doing tours, all that kind of stuff. So establish those roles as early as possible, especially if you're independent. But as I say, all of the logistics and all of the whole idea of touring is fully on you guys. So when it comes to releasing your music and having your music out there, obviously nowadays there are great platforms for distribution, DSPs and all that kind of stuff. Like we use DistroKid to release our music online. It takes a big weight off that you can use these platforms that allow you to go out there and put your music up there, upload the artwork, and it gets shopped out to all of these different platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Google Play, whatever it is, like Amazon. All of that stuff. It's really cool that we have these services available to us. What I would say, and what we've realized, is that of course there are so many bands nowadays and so many artists that are doing the same thing that it is hard to stick your head out above the crowd and make sure that you're noticed, which is why other things are really important, such as your live show, such as your social media presence and how you present yourselves, how you're going to create this brand about you and make people want to invest their time and attention, before even money, but time and attention in you guys, enough to pique their interest to come and see you or stream the music or like hear a recommendation and put you guys on or buy a t-shirt at a show. It's great having the DSPs available to do that, but because everybody does that, it's really important to find how you can make yourself stand out in this infinite ocean of artists nowadays. That brings me nicely on to the next point, which is of course streaming revenue. Now, in a band situation, streaming revenue pays pretty terribly. As a solo artist, if you're full independent, it's better. In my situation as a solo artist, when I release my own music, grinding gears, whatever else that I've done, I own 100% of that. So of course, unless I've collaborated with someone, but for the most part, all of the rights to that music is mine. So the streaming revenue over the years has been okay. I wouldn't say it's like life-changing, but it's nice every now and again to log into my DistroKid and see and go, oh, fair play, there's a bit of money in there. But in a band situation, in our situation, for example, there's 5 of us, so you know that percentage is reduced. And until you really start taking off and getting millions of streams, you're not going to see a huge return from that. So it's really important that you can come up with other ways to make money from your music, such as physical product. So that's like vinyl, CDs, t-shirts, merchandise. But not just a CD in a plastic wallet or a t-shirt that just says your band logo on it. It's important to get more creative with that. Like if you're going to buy a vinyl, what else is it in the vinyl that makes it worth buying? Like if at this point you've got fans that are engaged and want to invest a bit of time and money into you guys, then you want to make sure that what you offer them is something they feel is special to them. So for example, with us, we created a vinyl that had really cool artwork in it and really cool like marble effect on the vinyl. The t-shirt that went with it was like a bundle situation so that people felt, oh, I want to collect this. And we only made 1 edition of the vinyl. The first edition was limited to 300 pieces, and it all went because people that were really into the band and wanted to invest in the band could do that and by buying a vinyl, for example. So yeah, physical product is really important, and there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. We're announcing something really soon that again is a great way to give back to the fans that we've gained through doing this the last year, and I can't wait to announce that, but for another time. Moving on to something like crowdfunding, for example. Now personally, I'm not the biggest advocate of crowdfunding. In a situation where your band's established but you don't have funding and you know that there are fans that want you to succeed or want you to, let's say that all your fans are in America and you're based in England and you want to go and tour there and all your fans want you to go and tour there, you could then maybe pose the question, could we crowdfund the option and the ability to go and tour in America because all our fans are there and they want us to go? That might be a case where crowdfunding might be, in my opinion, a little more justifiable, but you obviously have to give them a reason to invest in that. Some people will just throw you a tenner because they're like, yeah, I'm a fan, so I'm going to do that. But within those perks and things of crowdfunding, you've got to make sure that people that are investing in you, that want to help you raise that monetary goal, get something back, like meet and greets and like hanging out, or like get early access to watch Soundcheck, or limited edition CDs, or like you could create a small product or something that you can take, and each person that's invested in that crowdfunding platform gets one of those as like a thank you. There are all sorts of stuff like that. Like in your release, you can have thank yous in the back, or like shout outs on video, or like all that kind of stuff. There's loads of cool ways to do it. But In my opinion, crowdfunding should be an absolute last resort in a situation where you're not able to fund it yourself, but it's a really important opportunity that you need funding for. So I guess that's a lot of information at this point, and hopefully John's edited it down in such a way that works and feels digestible, because I've talked a lot in this video, but it's a big topic, and I think hopefully this video has given you guys some ideas and inspiration on how you can execute things in your band going forward. Whether you're starting out, whether you've been going a little while and you've gained a bit of interest, or whether you're sort of doing well but you're still independent, hopefully some of this information has been helpful through our experience that we've found in this last year of doing stuff. But I wanted to sort of end it on a more positive sense, if in case some of you feel like that's a lot of work and it doesn't sound overly fun. It's very fun. The thing about being in a band, first and foremost, is creating with people that you enjoy spending time with, that you have something in common with, that you appreciate their artistic input. The thing I love about being in a band is that each member brings something unique to the table, and not just musically or creatively, but just energy and personality wise. I look at Vower and I think every member I love spending time with, which is great. It's also worth saying that you've got to be a fan of your own band. But some people look at it as a bit lame if you say some of my favorite music to listen to is my own music, is my own bands. But then at the same time, if you're in a band and you're creating music and you want to get out there and do it as something, as a career and stuff, that has to be your favorite music, because it's ultimately what you're creating and it's what you want people to enjoy and it's what you want to enjoy listening to. So you know what I mean? It's not lame to be a fan of your own music. Every single step of the way through a band, whether it's difficult or there are difficult situations, or you need money for something, or it's stressful trying to get a tour put together, it's really important that you can still remember what it is you're doing it for at the end of the day. And usually that happens when you get on stage and you're playing and you look over at one of your bandmates and you're like, this is sick, you know what I mean? Like when Tosca played Download and we were able to look at each other and go, holy shit, we actually got here and we fucking played this amazing show. Or when we're looking at in this new band with Vower, our first gigs were with Carnival, which has completely blown our minds. Or we get to play Download this year, and the same feeling, we're going to be walking out on stage thinking this is so sick, and then seeing people in the audience belting the lyrics back at us like they have done on these shows, that's why we do it. It's such a cool feeling that people get something emotionally from your music enough to sing it back at you and have a good night and come and watch you and spend time, maybe money if they want to buy t-shirts, or listen to your music and let you know that they really like what you're doing. That's why you do it, That's aside from just being in a band for your own personal pleasure and enjoying it and messing around, playing some local gigs, having a bit of a laugh. It's all encompassing. If you're in a band that want to take it as a career path, then it's really important to keep those qualities true and make sure that you're all on the same page. Being in a band in 2025, such as my band Vower, it's been expensive, but every single step of this journey so far has been 100% worth it, and we're just so ready to carry on and do more. So in any case, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful. Please put your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to keep this discussion going. If I missed anything out, then please throw that in there as well. But as independent bands, you can do it. Just got to believe in it. Just got to push yourselves. Just got to make sure that you're all ready to sacrifice time and energy to make it work and make it happen. And with that, I've been Rabea, and I will see you all very soon.